Welcome everyone. Today is October 20th, 2021 with the California Placement Association webinar series. I'm Rosalinda Rivas, president of the California Placement Association, and I see one of our board members here, Greg Friedman. Greg, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I've just got off another Zoom. I've been on Zoom since 8:30 this morning, my third one. So my name is Greg Friedman. I work for Merced County Office of Education. I'm a job developer. I am the Northern Region. I believe I'm a co-chair or co-person for our employers representatives. So with Luis Sorbavia, who will be here because he was hosting the last Zoom I was on. So I apologize.
Wonderful. No. And Greg is also going to be my right hand. He will be going through the chat. So anytime you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat box. Just so that you know, I do not mind if you unmute yourself and you ask a question while I'm presenting. So feel free to interrupt me. I can answer some of the questions as we move along. We have a lot of information to share. And if you can do me a favor in the chat box, if you could enter your first name and maybe your last name, and then maybe the organization and what part of the state or maybe other state that you might be part of, it'd be great to see where everyone's at. And then I was sharing with the group, Greg, in regards to the view access where they can either do speaker mode, the gallery, or the full immerse mode. And then Greg, can you assist Denise on the back end with the webinar link? Maybe send it out to the team. They're asking for that.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to thank everyone for taking the time to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It is 11:02 and I want to thank everyone for being here. So without any further ado, I just want to do a little bit of a check here. Let me just move this over. Does everybody see the screen? Okay, great. Thank you. Today's topic is workforce ghosting and peekaboo revealing placement strategies. So we're going to talk a little bit about ghosting. And a lot of times when we think about ghosting, we think about the most common thing, right? Picking up our cell phone and like, wow, they're not calling me anymore. They don't even write to me. I don't even get a text. Bummer. So we'll talk about what ghosting is and how it came about. All right, there we go. So the first thing I want to do is saying that ghosts are real, but it's not the type of ghost that we think about, but ghosting in the world of the workplace as well. So let's go through what ghosting is. So today's topic is what is ghosting, the ghosting culture. And then we're going to have a discussion on why workers are ghosting in the workplace as it pertains to employer ghosting, applicant ghosting, and employee ghosting. So 3 different areas. And then we're going to go from ghosting to job placement, and we'll talk about some ghostbusting strategies and solutions for change. Especially with this pandemic, the ghosting has truly increased. So what is ghosting? Feel free to unmute yourself right now. I'd like to hear what a definition might be or what you think, what you've heard about ghosting, whether it's on a personal level or in the professional world. What is ghosting? What have you heard?
Sounds to me like avoidance. They're avoiding me.
They're avoiding us, right? They're avoiding you. What else? Great.
It's even more than that. It's they disappear. You have to actually stalk them to find them and to help them. You have to find them to help them.
So we go into stalking mode, trying to help them, but they just disappear, right? Transparent. They're gone. Any other suggestions or things that we know about as it pertains to ghosting? All right. Well, I want to say, ladies, you're on the right track. That is absolutely correct. Those are definitely parts of what ghosting is. So let's look at what ghosting is. The practice of ending a personal relationship with someone by suddenly and without explanation, right? Like you well mentioned, withdrawing from all communication. It's like we don't see them, we don't hear from them. All of a sudden, no more text messages, no more emails, no more phone calls. I mean, and every time we call sometimes it goes straight to voicemail. So then all of a sudden we think we're getting blocked, right? And here we're all trying to help individuals with job placement. Here's the top definition. Just it says this: the act of suddenly ceasing all communication with someone. The subject is dating, but no longer wishes to date. This is done in hopes that the ghostee will just get the hint and leave the subject alone, as opposed to the subject simply telling them, or he or she, that they're no longer interested. So ghosting is not regarding gender, just want to share. It's about communication, like you said. And ghosting started in the world of online dating. So this is where the term actually came from. On the very bottom, you can see there was Carmen who said, "How was your date with Kyle?" And then Beth says, "I thought it went well, but I texted him a couple of times since then, and he's been ghosting me." And then Carmen says, "What? I thought he was more mature than that." Oh, right. So the term ghosting actually came out of the culture of online dating, or just dating in general. And so we saw that happening a lot through our telecommunication systems and technology, which is through the phone systems, whether we're doing an email or whether we're texting or just making phone calls and getting no response. So as we set the terms of understanding what ghosting is, and realizing, gosh, because it started off with dating, being shattered, what are some of the reasons that ghosting occurs with online dating? Because online dating became very popular with technology. Well, it's like we've all been talking about. It's when we break off a relationship, we don't want to communicate with the other individual. And so starting in 2011, this is when the term became ghosting. And so it had to do with social media and dating applications. So that's where the term comes from historically. And the interesting thing is the ghosts, they're just everywhere. So it became really popular within our culture. Because it was on social media, it continued to go viral. The terms, there was comments, there was a lot of feedback as it pertained to dating applications. A lot of times, because we've become so tech savvy in our culture or in social media, the communication became less personal and more desensitized. So there has been a decline in empathy, in regards to having that communication and actually saying, you know what, I'm no longer interested, just giving some true feedback. Look at the second paragraph. It says, in addition, the more commonplace the behavior becomes, the more individuals can become desensitized to it. Others have suggested that it's due to the decline of empathy in society, along with the promoting of a selfish, narcissistic culture. Well, I'm not sure if it's completely true in that area, but because technology has really separated the face-to-face interaction and is more popular, it's just easy to go someone, just not going to respond anymore. And so technology has made it super simple in that regards. But like I said, ghosting started with the social dating and has really evolved. So ghosting is not limited only to intimate relationships. It also happens between friends and family members. I'm wondering if you take a look at the bottom of your screen, you have a reaction button, and can you put a hand, raise your hand, or put any emoji that you would like if you have ever been ghosted by a friend, a family member, a coworker, or if you ever ghosted anyone as well. So both ways, right? Have you been ghosted or have you ghosted? And I don't need you to share in which direction, right? So I too have to find my emoji, because where is it at? Am I able to put a little reaction up here?
Hopefully you have the reaction button on the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, I don't see mine. So how many reactions do we have? Greg, can you kind of give me a feedback, because I'm not able to see everybody at once.
I saw one.
So if you can, or maybe do a big raise a hand, physical hand, and we could kind of do it that way. I'd like to see if anyone has been ghosted by a client, a friend, a family member, a loved one, online dating, or if you ghosted anyone. Doesn't matter which direction. I just want to know who's ever been impacted by ghosting.
I think I see 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, someone's actually using the ghost emoji. Perfect.
Okay, yeah. Oh, there's a ghost emoji. I didn't know that. Good to know. Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback. So yeah, it looks like quite a bit of us have been in the past and currently perhaps. So yeah, this ghosting culture, it's real and it's affecting all of us, not just for online dating. So all these little ghosts, what do we do? Because it's gone from personal ghosting to professional ghosting, the reality is that this discourteous act, because it's kind of rude, it's kind of desensitized and separated. As we mentioned, it has entered the world of work. So let's talk about how it's entered our workforce as they slowly start to disappear from one realm onto another. We're going to go into the employer ghosting. Do you have employers or any experiences with employers that you work with that they call you and they say that your, I'm going to say client, your job seeker didn't show up? And did you hear back from the employee to find out why they didn't show up? Can we have a little bit of a discussion on this? Can you tell us anything about your job seeker ghosts?
We have quite a few. We talk to them, we set up interviews, in-person interviews, never show up, never bother to call. So you just don't know whether they've been in an accident, or anything like that. So it's very common.
It's very common. Yeah.
We've been ghosted, but we've had students, graduates who are ghosted by the employer. In other words, they call us, they say, we need people, we send them resumes, and then they never call anyone. And I don't even understand it. They initiate the contact and then they don't call.
So on both ends, right? We hear it from the employer's end, we hear it from the applicant's end. And so these are real conversations, and they do occur in different directions. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that came about and the why and how these ghosts kind of evolved. So one of the things that happened with technology in the workforce is that we got automated. Around the 1990s, the online application tracking systems that are known as ATS, they came into being. So this made it incredibly helpful for companies because they were able to basically automate a lot of the applications where before they might have been looking at hundreds of resumes to review. Now they have the system that collects all the resumes, and based on what the trigger or the keywords are, if they meet a certain criteria, they move on to the next phase, which is they pass some type of screening process. And then at that point, the HR managers or those recruiters are able to go through those candidates, and then they give it a second view and then call the candidates they wish to, that they identify and wish to interview. Well, what happens is all the applicants that have applied, whether they've passed the screening process or not, they feel ghosted, right? They don't hear anything. There's no more letters that get written to them. Back in the day, there was companies that would send letters and saying you didn't meet the criteria, we selected somebody else. And a lot of that doesn't happen as much as it used to. It still does, but not as much. And so the ATS system made things easier, but it also created a rift between the applicants for the person and the employer or the recruiter to get some type of feedback. So that's part of what happened as technology and evolution changed in the 90s with our recruitment and application process. And then there's what they call the human capital management systems or services. And they're the ones, like I mentioned, they're the ones that actually design these software programs and operations to find ways to better mainstream the needs of the company. So time evolved, and by the time we hit the 2000s, we had the CRM systems, which are the candidate relationship management systems. And these help the ATS systems in regards to sourcing, and some things became automated where they can send letters or they can tell them that they're going from one phase to another. So that was a little bit of an improvement. But the reality is recruiting is no longer defined by tracking out applicants. It's about sourcing in a digital world because everything has become pretty much automated online. We've lost that connection to give feedback of you're not accepted, you didn't meet the criteria, you're on a wait list. And so that's why a lot of times individuals apply for a company and they never hear one way or another. And they feel, here I'm applying to 10 different places and no one's returning my call. So they feel ghosted. They feel disrespected. I'm going through all this trouble. It took me over an hour to apply. At least tell me you're not interested. Or they apply, they interview, and all of a sudden the position that they interview for gets reposted online and they don't understand. And then that becomes more frustrated, right? And so then individuals that are job seekers are like, what happened? You didn't tell me you didn't want the job. I couldn't have the job. You didn't even tell me why. And now you're reposting. What did I do? Am I not good enough? And, there's so much internalization that happens with the job applicant that it gets frustrated. So it's easy for them to disconnect. And sometimes when they get a job or get selected to interview for a company, they will either, as they've told us, I'm blowing them off. Oh, you know what? I didn't really care. I got another interview, so I went there instead. They don't mind. You know, companies are always ghosting me anyways, you know, so they think of it as a norm. And so about 75% of resumes just sit in a database. And that's it. They just get collected and they just stay there, or eventually they get washed out of the system. So this has been part of why, and this is no fault of HR or the recruiting managers, because they're only getting what the computer is giving them as well. So you know, we have to take a look into that. So it's no fault on both ends, but yet it impacts both ends. And so here's some stats that went out about, because they were blaming, and that, okay, let me start off with, the Washington Post said that the analysts blame America's increasing tight labor market. Job openings have surpassed the number of seekers by 8 straight months. This was back in 2018, a little bit of old data, but it's the same thing that's going on right now because of the pandemic, because people are off of EDD. And right now the studies are starting to come out. They're starting to see, well, where are the job seekers, right? They're no longer on the unemployment payroll list, but they're not coming out to job fairs. They're not applying. We can't find individuals. These are what HR managers are telling us throughout the state. You know, it's like, where are these individuals, right? And so they feel not only ghosted if they apply, they feel ghosted that they're not even available to apply, or they don't even see them in person. And so a lot of the shift has changed in regards to virtual work, or with the changes in the workforce of not having enough workforce, where companies are having to do a lot of overtime with their employees, and employees are getting burned out. And so now employees are leaving those jobs because of the value of they're feeling overworked and there's no work-life balance. And so these are things to take into account. But the most common things in the workplace is similar to what Thea was saying earlier. They don't show up for the interview, right? Or they get the job offer and they don't show up to work. Has anyone experienced that where they've heard or they've seen that they don't show up, that you hired them, you gave them a job offer letter, and they don't show up on the first day? Let's hear about that. Any comments?
It's one of the things that we try to train our graduates not to do. If they accept a job offer, and they get a better job offer, we really try to encourage them to call the original offer back and say, thank you so much for having faith in me. However, I have gotten the job of my dreams. I know you wouldn't want to stand in my way, and at least give them some closure so they can start looking for somebody else. But those are tough conversations to have. And most people today, I discover, are not terribly confrontational. And so they don't want to give bad news to someone, but it's better to cut it than it is to leave people hanging.
Great. And it's wonderful to hear that you are having those conversations with them. And those are those difficult conversations, right? You know, we're having to feel like we're going to reject someone or say some bad news, and we don't feel good about it, or they don't feel good about it. And it's once again encouraging individuals to have that. I see Jackie, one of our other board members, raised her hand. So Jackie, did you have a comment or?
Yeah, just a comment. Also, sometimes a lot of companies will counter offer. So if they have someone that's looking for a position, you know, and it's due to pay, let's say, sometimes the company will actually counter offer to try to keep that employee. And see, at that point, they're not going to pursue an offer from somewhere else.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
And so are there any other techniques that we're using with either a company or with, I see some other hands up. I see Christina's hand up. Go ahead, Christina.
Oh, no, I just want to share. I definitely had experience where, you know, they went through everything, even HR and everything. And on the day of their orientation, the person we decided to make an offer and hire, they didn't even show up at orientation. So it just makes a long process when we're hiring folks out there it's very competitive in wage and everywhere else. So people are having other choices. And when it comes to the time to come to orientation and start their job, they don't show up.
Yeah, and right now, when you're talking about more choices, it is a job seekers market. There are more jobs available than they can find individuals, right, to fill those positions. Thea, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think also it's good to get back to the employer if they're declining the job for salary or anything, because that way we can make a push, because sometimes we don't do market analysis as much as often as we have. I will say the market is moving so fast, we can't even keep up with the wages and stuff like that. So it's a good, it benefits the employer to hear why people are just not showing up for the positions. And we've had several individuals do that as well.
And I'm so happy to hear that. It's important to hear on both ends, what's going on with us that are working with our job seekers so that we can better train and prepare them, and getting the feedback from employers, and then from employers to hear what we're hearing so that, you can also be aware. And you're right, how do you know what to fix or to do if there's no feedback, right? If you get ghosted, at least those are conversations that we can have or they can share, or to make us aware as we're looking at job announcements that we're placing, do we need to reconsider? And I think we see that right now with so many companies doing sign-on bonuses too. And others have been offered other, like sometimes the shifts, like, they applied for the first shift, but they rather have a second shift. And so when they have that conversation with the company, sometimes they're able to accommodate shift change too. But if they don't share, how does anyone know? And Jackie, is your hand still up, or did you have another comment?
No comment. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure in case you had another comment. Definitely wanted to address it. So let's see. The other thing I wanted to share is quitting without notices, right? Sometimes individuals, Mary, you had a comment or a question. Let's go to you first before I move on. Go ahead. Oh, so you're on mute right now, Mary.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're good.
I just wanted to add a comment for no showing for an interview. So I've had that happen over the years with some of our candidates. No showing on the first day. Sometimes they'll get an email from an employer asking them for an interview, and they, have failed to check their emails. So they missed their interviews. And then some.
Oh, we lost a little bit of your audio, Mary. I think you're frozen, or is it me?
It's her.
Oh, okay. So you froze a little bit, Mary, but I think what we were getting is that sometimes individuals forget to check their email. And so sometimes we need to remind them to check their emails. That kind of brings me another point. Sometimes individuals have two emails, right? One that's professional and one is the one that they use all the time for friends and family. So Mary brings up a great point in regards to reminding individuals to check those work or those professional emails that they're utilizing for applying. And Mary, if you do get some audio back, feel free to drop your comment in the chat or, kind of bring it up again. It was a good discussion, a great point that you brought up. So thank you for that. So quitting without notice, we hear a lot about that where individuals are walking off the job, going on break, never coming back or not coming back the next day, or just at any given moment throughout their shift, they just leave. Any comments about that? And what do we do in regards to preparing job seekers to let them know that that is not okay? Or what does an employer do from that point of view as well? What are some things that we see?
This is Lori again. God, I'm talking a lot.
you're
I
good.
find that more people lately are comfortable quitting without notice. And I think there are two reasons for that. One is because most things are anonymous these days. People can't find people as easily because they are, everything's behind the mask of internet, people ghost and disappear and they don't have to deal with these people anymore. In medicine, however, people go around and around. And I like to say the butt you kick today may be the one you have to kiss tomorrow. And so it's very, very important that you don't get a reputation for just disappearing. But it used to be that it was held against you when they asked for references. And these days you can't give references, real references. You can only say they worked here from this time to this time and this is what they made. And so there are no real references anymore. And that works in an employee who quits without notice's favor because they don't even put it on their resume. And I agree, they shouldn't put it on their resume if they're only there for one day and they leave. But even when they get a great job offer after they've been there for 6 months, you should always give notice because and I don't think you should hire somebody who says they won't, because they won't do it for you either.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's true. We just never know in the industries that we're in. It's such a small world, right? And people remember, especially HR managers, HR managers sometimes move from company to company, or they're part of the HR network. And there's just so many ways that people are so connected nowadays. Jackie, I see that your hand is up, so I'd like to reach out to you.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be just like Lori, kind of jumping in quite a bit.
We like that. We like that. Comments from anyone and everyone.
Yeah, so the quitting without notice, that's sometimes really common that I think can really be caught by looking at the employee's behavior in terms of just if they're calling out, how many 6 days are they using? That's kind of one way that we used to measure employees that we thought maybe having an issue, they may not be happy with their current position. We'd look at their sick days. How often are they using their sick days? Are they hitting burnout moments where they feel like they don't want to be with the company anymore? But as Lori mentioned, definitely so. It does protect the applicant when they go somewhere else because they could list on that application, do not contact my employer, and they have that right legally not to do that. So how do we find that happy sweet spot, if you will, to prevent them from quitting? And I think that goes to in the proactive mode by looking at just the ones that are calling in sick on a regular basis and having that one-on-one with them to see if they're happy in their position.
Yes, wonderful points. It's so true. Thank you for sharing that. This is great. Let's take a look at this. ATS are the applicant tracking systems and hiring managers. And then we shared a little bit about this, but we're going to look a little more into how our employers ghosting applicants. So we're going to look at all 3 areas, right? And this is not a finger point blame. This is just something that's happened because of technology. So with the applicant ghosting, individuals apply. The ones that feel ghosted are the ones that never make it to the interview. And this is because of the software system, the way they're designed, the way they're coded, the analytics that are used, and then whatever programming that's necessary to screen and look for the basic minimum requirements for the positions that are being posted. And I know that a lot of us workforce professionals working with the job seekers, we always share with them, take a look at the job the job description for the announcement. Make sure that your resume is reflecting that you've done those skills. If you have those skills, make sure that you do that. If it's asking you for specific software programs, please make sure you indicate it versus familiar with all Microsoft Office products, right? Make sure you list that you know how to use Excel, Microsoft Word, and that's just a little example, and for some other individuals or other positions, it just might be soft skills that they're looking for in addition to the technical skills. So that's really important. And if they understand the importance of being able to have a really good resume because it's online and how to do that, that's going to help them not be ghosted as much on the ATS system so that they can actually be having a seat and have an opportunity for an interview. Some of the comments that we've heard in regards to the applicants is like on social media and on Twitter, this is happening a lot, right? When the topics are in regards to ghosting, it says workplace ghosting, and it says double standard. If employers don't let you know that they're hiring another candidate, or they can lay you off at any given time, right? Because California is an at-will state. Why can't employees not show up on the first day or quit by walking out, right? And then the little laugh things, right? So I mean, people are having fun making jokes, but these are serious topics, right? These are like real situations. But it also shows the mindset, and this is on public social media, so they made it public, so just want to put that as a disclosure. And then we have some other ones here, like says, you all want to talk about ghosting? Let's talk about jobs you apply for and never get denied or accepted, right? And this is an older one. It says, am I not good enough? Is your system just assigned to overlook me? Is your HR person always on vacation? LOL. And and I think the mindset is they're thinking it's the people doing this, right? And it's not the HR people, it's the software system. And so I think a lot of programming and companies are working to do a better job in how they're doing this, or on our end, working with the individuals that are job seekers, our clients, to make sure that we do a better job in training them and ensuring, looking over the resumes to make sure that they are putting in those skills, the soft skills, those technical skills that are required. Here's a couple other fun ones that are not so fun. Do you think ghosting is a generational issue, or is it due to the erosion of civility, courtesy, and manners along with generations in today's workplace, or both? So this is a question that came up on one of the SHRM blogs. So let's have a little discussion on that. Greg, you have your hand up.
Oh, I think on the last one, it's like it's a ghosting. ATS is like a ghosting process. Like our applicants don't know that there's an ATS system out there. They probably still think it's like the old days, that every application is looked at, and they don't know that there's a computer system, and no one, the HR is not, they're not on vacation. They never saw it because it didn't get through the computer system. So I think we need to educate our clients, like, hey, this is how it is these days. And it's why we, I know Luis and I, we talk about it, and we want to run through, use JobScan to make sure you're hitting those keywords for the ATS tracking systems. So.
Yeah, and that might be a good workshop to have down the line again, Greg, in regards to doing the ATS system, the job scan, so they can utilize that software and see and learn about that. So great point. Thank you. Let's see. I saw Pat's hand and Lori's hand. Who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Okay, thank you.
I've been job developing for more years than I'd like to mention because it dates. The majority of us in employment that do workshops, I think it's time to, we all kind of do the same ones that we've been doing for years, but adding on, let clients know it's not personal and about the ghosting on both ends. And also HR, even if they don't have the computer system, they don't have the time to email everybody back and tell them that they went to another. Those were years and years ago. You'd get those emails, thank you for applying, and we went with another candidate. And just knowing that it's not personal, I think, and doing these workshops on a lot of these topics that are different from the same ones they've taken over and over again is just my comment.
Wonderful. And it's a great comment, and truly valued it. And these are the discussions that we like to bring up, because it kind of triggers thoughts, right? Oh yeah, we haven't done it in a long time. Let's do some more of this. Or you know what, haven't done this. Maybe we need to talk about this, And so these are critical conversations of training opportunities too. Lori, you had your hand up as well. I'd like to get to you.
I did. I want to address the civility issue. I think that when one feels wronged, that they tend to knee-jerk react and say, well, you did this to me and I'm going to do it back to you. An eye for an eye leads to a lot of blind people. It does not make things better. And so if you didn't like it, and I try to share this with my grads, if you don't like the way they're treating you, that does not give you carte blanche to treat them the same exact way. So this idea of, well, they're ghosting me, so I'm going to ghost the next one, is not necessarily a valid idea. Do two wrongs make a right? And so one of the things that we focus on, because we teach content, but we also teach appropriate behavior. I noticed in the chat box that somebody does their an in-service on employer expectations. We do the same. And, sometimes you got to realize who has the red pen, who is the person in charge, and they already have a job. You need to impress them. Yes, they need to impress you, but you need to also assess and see if it's a good fit for both sides. And you don't want to do that by being as uncivil, uncivil as the other person.
Wonderful points. And, and those civility etiquette points are so needed to have those conversations, because sometimes we forget. And the way we text is not the way we should always email in the workplace either, right? So having those civility or etiquette, basic etiquette in the workplace, or reminders is a great thing to address. So thank you for sharing that, Thea.
Yeah, I think also with recruitment, a lot of the recruiters are working with multiple recs. So even if they send a no thank you, you haven't been selected, you do have candidates that will come back and say, why, and recruiters don't like confrontations. Typically we're very happy people. So confrontations takes it to the next level. And a lot of times we're not involved in the actual selection process because of the fact that managers are calling the candidates that we send them that have meet the minimum, or we've had a conversation, and we're sending them to that hiring manager. So I think that's hard for the applicants to kind of understand. And the way our applicant tracking is set up is we do have replies in there, but the recruiter has to activate that reply, and a lot of them do not. And I'm being perfectly honest there.
No, and that's great, because these candid conversations that we have is going to help us all throughout the state of California as it pertains to workforce development, working with HR managers, working with our job seekers, working with our communities, and educating and helping I guess helping both ends understand. And also, these are I'm going to say the conversations that are not always had, the traditional ones, as we hear, like, oh, interview tips, the resume, the job search. We hear those, and those are, sometimes we just kind of package those in, but these are the other conversations that are so fundamental, that we need to discuss and just be true and honest about it, because ghosting became where people, individuals don't, whether it's online dating or professional, where they don't want to have that conversation because it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable. And it's that civility, as you were also mentioning, Lori, the etiquette, well, they're doing this, so why should I, right? And so no, we're all better than that. And it's not even about being better. It's about all of us helping each other out for the better good of everyone, for ourselves, for our job seekers, for our companies, for our workforce, for the workplace culture. And companies have done an amazing job in the last 10 years with really caring about the culture and making change, organizational change, which kind of leads me to the bottom comment here, where this individual is saying, I have a solution: stop treating people or employees so bad that they don't feel guilty about ghosting you. They can replace you without warning. So we can also replace our bosses without warning. And that's kind of like saying, like, oh, I'm leaving you, I'll get a new boss, I'll go to another job. But it's true that this is not the solution. It's about finding a positive way to do this. And so let's take a look. There's some other ones in regards to not
Lori,
getting the fee. Did you have a comment?
Lori had a comment. Oh, Lori does.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lori. I apologize. I missed it. Go ahead.
No, I said my piece. Did I not take my hand down? My apologies.
Oh, no, you're good. Okay. Yeah, we just want to make sure. And thank you, Greg. Anyway, so, sometimes job seekers feel that there's such strict parameters, but if we teach the job seekers and make them aware of how to make things easier for them, kind of like the job scan that Greg Friedman shared earlier. If you haven't heard about job scan, definitely a great thing to look up on the internet. You can look it up, and job seekers can use that. And then I think we'll have that as one of our future ATS tracking and job scan training webinars that we had in the past. We'll bring it up again this year. Jackie, go ahead and go.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment, just go back a little bit. I think Patrice may have been the one that kind of brought it up, how we deal with clients that we are declining and it being confrontational. And a lot of times the the gap between is from the recruiter and occasionally it could be the HR manager. Now, some companies, when I recruited, I would actually find the candidate, screen, do all the interviewing process, the background, extend the offer. So when that candidate didn't make it through, it was easy for me to have that conversation with them because I was involved in the process from the beginning to the very end. And so a lot of times HR managers, they forget that the recruiting part of it is just as crucial because they are the first contact to that candidate. And I've always said word of mouth could help or hurt you. And so if a candidate does not get that position and there's no communication as to why, then they're going to tell 5 more other people don't apply to this company. So it is important for that communication to really be in sync with HR managers and recruiters if they don't have it streamlined a different way.
Yeah, and then on the flip side is sometimes it's impossible because some companies for one position are getting thousands of applications, or hundreds of applications, and it's only one person, or the recruiter and the HR are separated components. And then the other thing too, and we don't have to discuss this, but at this point, but it's a true thing. Giving feedback has led into a lot of litigation. So a lot of HR managers have been told, don't give feedback because, you have to say, so we have to be aware of that as well. And so we have to be sensitive to that. So that's another trifecta consideration too. So, we've got to protect on both ends. So let's look at, I'm looking at the time here. So let's go into employee ghosting. So now we're talking about the employees, right? And we kind of shared a little bit about that. So they don't feel guilty. They feel like, turnover is high, some individuals, like even on a social thing where at a college, they're leaving notes saying like, sorry, bros, had to ghost, right? And they just leave, and then they leave individuals stuck with the rent, right? So it also happens in a personal level in a social setting with friends and colleagues, in different ways where sometimes it affects people financially. It's like, I'm out of here. They ghost them and you're stuck with a dorm or a rental agreement that they're having to pay. Employees leave jobs that they feel in the term here suck, right? And sometimes if you just had a conversation or go through training or some of that, it could be resolved. Those are just some of the reasons why they're saying that they're doing this. Now in America, those are the responses, but in the UK, it's also happening. They're also seeing that they have about 31.2 million working professionals, and 2.8 million have been ghosted by their employer. So one way or the other, this is what they're saying. This is back in 2016. Let me tell you, the numbers have increased, but this is pretty much almost the same still. When you look at the job candidates regarding them ghosting and then the companies ghosting, so the applicants are in blue and then green is the companies. It fluctuates, but it's pretty much happening on both ends in regards to what's very reasonable, unreasonable, or very unreasonable in the categories of why ghosting occurs. And ghosting reasons is subjective to interpretation, based on their experience. So the point here is that ghosting is real and that it is occurring and it's increasing. And with the pandemic, it has really had a huge impact as we find more individuals not even coming out of their homes. So how are we going to ghost bust them, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the ghost busting strategies for influencers with the HR managers or companies and how we can help. And I say we in all rounds of workforce development, from the workforce that's training the employee or the job seeker to get a job, to the job seeker themselves. And that could be some of us when we're looking to change jobs as well. So, we too need to own this, individually. And then the third level is for the companies, what could they do to make things better with their automation system, with their computers, on that, and like what voice or change could be done with the software systems. And that's a longer process to get through, but at least starting those conversations create the opportunity. So some basic strategies is give respect to employees, right? I think that does happen more often than not, but sometimes we hear in different settings that it's not. But if we share that there is a communication chain of command, an opportunity to share like grievances or situations if someone's yelling at them, that there is a process versus just quitting. I think we can do a better job in training our job seekers of how or what they can do. The other one is the use of direct and indirect communication plays an important role. Now, this is interesting because this one talks about, and I'll just read it. Maintaining consistency among employees or staff is an important and tough task. Absolutely. The employer has to consider all aspects and paint a clear picture of the process of instructions to employees. The employer should never mislead or never overpromise and underdeliver. And I think that just has to do with more of the job opportunities and the job descriptions. But I don't see that really truly happening as much, as job descriptions are pretty much being written up in details. They're pretty good, but I think the chain of command of how to share a grievance or how employees could be more involved in some of the shared decision making process, or to share ideas. And that goes back to, I think somebody was saying in regards to communication, right? Having those difficult conversations, but being able to be civil about it, being able to be respectful, is part of those soft skills or interpersonal skills that sometimes individuals need to improve on. All of us need to improve on at times, and it's just that awareness piece. So honesty is the key. And I think earlier I heard, I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was Euthia, but I don't remember. But I know it's among all of us here today. Somebody said, you know what, I'm just going to be frank and honest about this and just throw it out there. And I think that is the beginning of what makes the difference, And so that's so critical and important. Have discussions to give feedback to HR managers. So we talked a little bit about that when Jackie was mentioning that, have some feedback of, what's working, what's not working, or even when we get a job seeker that doesn't get a job, they went an interview, let's talk about it. And sometimes some of us have that relationship with the HR managers. Let's take the time ourselves to call the HR manager and say, hey, can you give me some tips and feedback on what my candidate can do to improve their interview for another company? Not so much saying, what did they do wrong or this and that, just some feedback, right? Because they also have to be careful on, lawsuits or what they say, but giving that feedback. And as we build better rapport with our HR managers, as we're sending job seekers, we can have those conversations. Any comments in regards to that? I see the thumbs up from Jackie. We good? All right. Here's some solutions for discussions, and this is available on the OPM website, which is the Office of Personnel Management with the United States. So these are flyers that you can get from them, and these are key factors that drive an engaging workforce. So sometimes putting flyers up like this, depending on how the culture is of the organization, what they can do, you can create this and kind of implement some of this into the workplace, or do your own to show employees, hey, here's some of the things that you have available. I know in some companies there are, I know I'm going to speak for my for the company I work with, there are different forums or groups that we can participate in and volunteer if we want to be part of the equity change, if we want to be part of the communication change, diversity councils. There's different groups. So even in other companies, if they want to be engaged, they can do that, or they can figure out, what could I do to improve my skills? Maybe it's an opportunity to go back to school, get additional training, how to get some stackable credentials to move up in the career ladder. So finding different ways to incentivize or get employees engaged to feel valued and to, I'm going to say stay retained with the company. Retention and upskilling, it's important, and so companies are doing the best they can, but if they don't hear from the candidates that are their employees, how do they know? So it goes back to communication, us being able to communicate. And here's just another flyer as an example, engagement matters and what they can do. So let's talk about the ghost busting strategies for the job seekers. How much time do I have, Greg? Where am I on time?
11 minutes.
Okay, well, I definitely want to honor the time. So let's kind of zoom through this a little bit. No pun intended. So ghosting in the workplace is now an unfortunate and deciding unwise phenomenon, as we know, right? And somebody said this earlier, it can haunt the job candidates in the future. You just never know when your path will cross again. So don't just ghost and think it's all over. So yeah, we need to be aware that sometimes people's name get recognized, and then they'll see them in a new company they're applying. Is like, oh, I remember this person. They showed up. I offered them a job. So they have to be careful. So we have to be aware of how we can address and help, and us be the agent of change, right? To us be the influencers for all our job seekers that we're working with, and have these conversations about not ghosting them, and some of those practices of how to share, what, I found a better opportunity, or to give the company some feedback. What, you're offering this amount, but the going rate in these other two companies, I've got 2 other job offers, is this, and also those negotiation skills to share, what, I really want your company, but you're not even within that salary pay range, but you are my first choice, but I'm going to actually consider this one because of salary. And that company might say, what, give me a couple of days. Let me look at that labor market. Let's see what's going on, and I'll get back to you. And they might get a job offer that might match it. And we have to give those companies an opportunity, because sometimes that individual will take that job that's $2 more, and then they're going to quit because they didn't like it. And the best fit would have been with that other company that paid a little less, but had they shared that salary competition, of that salary, it might have made a difference. They might have had an opportunity to be there and be a good fit in the long run. So what specific workshops or advice can we provide job applicants so that they don't go? So I'd like to hear, and also if you don't mind sharing it in the chat box, like what type of workshops specifically as it pertains to ghosting can we help? I know somebody said communication, right? Someone said those difficult, what was the term that you used? I'm trying to remember. Confrontational, because we tend to be really happy, and so we don't like to being the bad messenger, right? Sharing bad news. What other things can we share?
I think
I was
no.
trying to raise my hand, but I think I clapped.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Denise.
Okay. So I don't know if this applies, but I have met with quite a few students who they see things as optional. Like they're going, like they have to go to they get hired, and then they have to go to the onboarding process. They don't go. They don't get that it's you have to do this or you're not going to move forward. And so I've really tried to be very clear, but I still have people go, oh, I thought like, oh, I didn't have to do that, or I don't know. It's just, and they have been successfully showing up for class and graduate, and so they have the ability to do things like that. But I don't know. I think just being very, very direct, maybe putting things in writing that they have to do. I don't know.
Good point. I think somebody brought up there's a lot of high paying positions that are being unfilled. And so one of the things I want to say in regards to, I talked to some HR managers and some individuals. There have been what's happening in the virtual world now because of the pandemic. Families that used to have 2 cars have 1. They have been able to find employment opportunities to work from home. A lot of individuals are liking the fact that they don't have to go to a building, go through traffic and drive. And so they're looking for virtual jobs versus traditional jobs. And they've also learned that you can have 1 high paying salary income winner in the household and not have 2 and still save money. So I think that those are part of the reasons why we're not having so many individuals also applying for those high paying jobs. And I say that because I work with a lot of the recruiters, and when they speak to some of those individuals, they said, oh no, I don't need to work anymore. And my husband's doing this and we're saving money, and we're doing well, and we prefer the quality time at home. So that's been part of the feedback. I see your hand, Carrie. Great to see you again, Carrie. And Lori.
Hey, the one thing that, I think is so important right now is emotional intelligence. Going back to that is, and even recently, I would say in the last week or two, what I'm starting to realize is a lot of the chaos that's still happening in some organizations, private, academic, elsewhere, people that are higher up in these organizations didn't get a break. They never got a break during COVID. They never got a chance to sit back and reset. They had to just plow through. And so I think some of the things I'm seeing and hearing is really happening. I see a lot of heads nodding, is really happening because top down now there's a bit of chaos that's like, whoa, where is this coming from? And so I think for our job seekers and, for employees, and even for staff, right? For management level and higher too, to help them refocus on how to manage their emotions intelligently at work. In one hand, that gives them the permission to acknowledge that, oh, okay, it's not just me. This has been crazy and this doesn't feel right and I'm a little upside down. And on the other, it will give them practical techniques, tools, solutions to try to manage that going forward. So, we've got the Great Resignation. Now the same person that coined that term, I don't know if anyone saw it, is saying, well, now we've got the, the great return to work, right? You've got people that left companies. Hopefully they didn't, I'm sure a lot of them probably in the chaos burned bridges, but those that didn't are coming back saying, wow, the grass wasn't greener, or now I needed that break. I'm feeling much better. I can come back. And I think that to stem the tide of that happening, I think the more we can focus on emotional well-being, and from a career practitioner's perspective, that emotional intelligence and how to manage that, getting that out there and supporting on all levels, from the employers to the employees to the upper level management, I think is going to really help make a difference going forward.
Wonderful, great points. Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate it. Lori, Pat, and if I can give you guys maybe 30 seconds each so we can kind of conclude the presentation.
Yes, and you kind of stole what I was going to say, Carrie, but that is exactly right. Emotional intelligence, but specifically, you mentioned it earlier, Rosalinda, and that is empathy. People need to understand what it feels like when you're ghosted, and they have, and so don't do it to others. It is not okay, and do it for yourself. Don't necessarily do it for everybody else. Do it because it's the right thing to do, and that's what you should be doing all the time. So I really do. Emotional intelligence is brilliant. Yes. Good job.
All right, Pat.
I also agree with everyone in regards to that, but I also want to talk about, and I had a conversation with somebody the other day, that women do not have the negotiating skills. Our mothers didn't teach us, although I know I come from a different, older generation. I think we need to teach our women, when I was a single mother a long time ago, an employer would offer me a job. I was so grateful that, I'd be able to support my family. I didn't even ask how much I was going to be earning. And I didn't even know I would be able to negotiate my wage and my self-worth. And so I think that would be another great workshop to give for our job seeker clients.
Thank you. Could you put that down, Greg? I saw him writing already. All right. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's so true. Negotiation skills. So let's move on really quick. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why ghosting has and we've got some ghosting workshop topics here. But what I want to say, any additional ideas, you guys have all kind of shared some additional ideas. So you were ahead of the game with this slide. Job placement, what we need to do is have those conversations, as we said, with the job seekers. Do have the conversations with company hiring managers. Have the job seekers learn to talk to them and share. And let's connect with the job development placements and share these ideas amongst each other to help be a Ghostbuster. So the takeaways is everything we've covered today, and I'm going to leave it on the slides. All of you are going to be able to see this video on YouTube as well as our website. If you'd like a copy of this PowerPoint slide, I am more than happy to share it. But I just want to say thank you, everyone, and thank you for listening and for being so patient. You can always find me on LinkedIn. You can find Carrie and all of us on LinkedIn. And so I'm Rosalinda Rivas. I'm the president of the California Placement Association. I'm also the apprenticeship director for Moreno Valley College, and happy to be here. And just so some bonuses for those that are interested in the PowerPoint slide. I have some takeaway pointings, talking point suggestions that you can have with your job seekers in regards of what they can do. And these are kind of like you can use as little slideshows or cards that you can print out for discussion points with them and stuff. So anyways, please feel free to find more and share with others. Oh, that was my brainstorming page, so ignore that one. But anyways, I do want to say thank you. So on behalf of the California Placement Association, I want to say thank you for being part of our California webinars. And we are having another one next month. We will have 2 in November, 2 in December, and continuously on through the end of the year.
Hi, my name is Luis Sobrevilla, and I work with the Merced County Office of Education, and I'm a proud member of California Placement Association.
Hi, my name is Greg Friedman. I work with Merced County Office of Education. I'm a proud member of the CPA Northern Region.
Hi, my name's Denise Crawford, and I work at Bakersfield College, and I'm a proud member of the California Placement Association Central Region.
Hi, I'm Rosalinda Rivas, and I'm a proud member of the California Placement Association.